Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a disturbing nature.
And we're not going to hold back on the graphic details and disturbing content.
So we do not recommend our podcast for children under the age of 13.
And while we respect the victims and their families involved in these tragic cases,
we're also going to be critical of mistakes that are made during the investigations.
And we're going to use dark humor to express ourselves now and then.
So with that said, this podcast may not be for everyone.
And that's okay. We're glad you're here checking us out.
And if you've made it this far, welcome to the Unsung Murder Ballads family. And follow us on Instagram at Unsung Murder Ballads if you want to talk to us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is episode 97. I am Janus Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
All right, so tonight we're doing something a little special. A few weeks ago, or maybe a month or more ago at this point, because we lose track of time, Jameson here mentioned, we were talking about our favorite episodes that we recorded, and he mentioned the Burger Chef murders, even though we had never covered it.
I got wrapped up in my fascination of this case.
Sometimes we all get false memories. It's a very normal part of the human experience.
Right, and I think
sometimes we misremember.
Exactly, and I think it's because he and I had talked about it once, and he must have just assumed it was on tape, and it wasn't. So as a result of that, Jameson tonight is going to be presenting us with the Burger Chef murder case.
Alrighty, let's get right into it.
Fascinating. Is it a burger chef, or is it like a restaurant called Burger Chef?
It is a restaurant called Burger Chef, which I laughed at the very first time I ever heard it too.
Yeah, I don't know. Fascinating. All right, let's rock.
Yeah.
All right.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off one more time. There was a video game when I was a kid called Burger Time, where you were a chef trying to trying to catch and make burgers.
I've played that at the arcade before.
Yes. That's so. Every time I think
fun.
That also makes me think of this, which is not appropriate for this murder case.
No, not great.
No. All right. Sorry, Jameson. Take it away.
We're good. All right. Let's get into this. It was Friday, November 17th, 1978, at around midnight, and an employee of Burger Chef in Speedway, Indiana, walked past the location and realized that the lights were still on. Okay. Burger Chef was a fast food restaurant that began operating in 1954 and started in Indianapolis.
Classic Indianapolis. Call it
right, yeah.
Burger Chef.
By 1973, it had over 1,000 locations, including some in Canada.
Wait, 1,000 locations, and we've never heard of it?
Apparently, it's out of our realm.
They say it's a small world, but it's not.
No, it's not. I know Indiana's not exactly close, and this was like the 70s and 80s, but still, like...
1,000 sounds like a lot. Sounds like it would be in every state.
Yeah, except maybe if we're talking about Dunkin' Donuts up here in New England, because I think there's 1,000 in Massachusetts alone.
Like within...
Yeah, but they're every street corner.
Exactly.
I was going to say within like a 2-mile radius.
No, my favorite is when they're on both sides of the street.
Yes.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yes. Sorry, we digress.
It's a beautiful thing.
Digressing works at this, so it's all good. The Burger Chef name and logo was eventually sold to the owner of Hardee's, and in 1996, the final Burger Chef restaurant was closed down.
Okay, so Hardee's I've heard of, so that makes sense why I may never have heard of Burger Chef.
Then again, we don't have Hardee's up here.
No, but I've traveled, so. So
when the employee saw the lights on, he became suspicious because it was after the restaurant should have closed for the night.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's actually responsible of this person.
He went up to the door and found that it was unlocked, but the 4 employees that were supposed to be on were nowhere to be found.
Yikes.
He found that the safe where the daily cash was kept was wide open.
Okay.
There was $581 missing from it, and in today's standards, it would be $2,500.
Okay, still not a decent amount of money. Yeah, but not enough to...
A lot of money.
But for 4 people to do what?
Oh, to risk getting in trouble? No, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Next to the safe were 2 empty currency bags and adhesive tape. While the money in the safe was gone, there was more than $100 worth of coins still in the registers.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. If I were gonna rob a place, I don't know that I would take the coins.
no, I wouldn't. It's gonna weigh you down.
Exactly.
How funny would it be if they did though? They have like 20 pounds of pennies in a bag.
That'd be so awesome. Like, you know how some people like have the 5-gallon water jugs and they put money in there and it's all full of coins?
Yes.
Could you imagine the
yes,
guy
me
trying to
running out of the bank.
yeah, trying to steal that? Like you're just waddling down the street.
Oh, that's a beautiful sight.
Also very odd was the back door to the restaurant, which was rarely ever used, was wide open, but there were no signs of foul play or that a struggle had taken place at all.
Okay.
20-year-old Jane Freet, 16-year-old Mark Flemings, 16-year-old Daniel Davis, and 18-year-old Ruth Shelton, along with Jane's 1974 Chevrolet Vega, were nowhere to be found. And the initial suspicion was that the employees had taken the money and fled with it.
See, I still don't understand what police thinking that. Like, what do they think they're doing? 4 people, it's what, $500 each? Doing what? Like, they're not near Vegas. They're not. Like, where are they going to go?
So there was $581 altogether. The
Oh,
2000
oh,
the
right.
2,500 was what it would have been in today's
Oh.
currency.
Yeah, so they're running away. Like, so police think that these 4 people robbed their own place of employment for $125 a piece.
Apparently.
Okay.
Slay.
Like, you'd have to be a serious addict.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
When the police arrived, they found personal belongings like wallets and jackets of the employees still left in the restaurant.
And they still thought. So
Huh.
they think they're runaways.
Yeah, not the runaway employees.
After investigating the scene, police ultimately concluded embezzlement.
Embezzlement.
Yep.
Embezzlement. Oh my goodness.
Wow. So,
And the police in all their wonderful glory did not protect the crime scene and did not process or preserve any kind of anything
right,
because
because
they just
they thought it was robbery and embezzlement.
yep. The restaurant even opened for business in the morning.
Damn.
This isn't that long after the oh god, the one with the girl who was basically being tortured to death by her caregiver while her sister had to sit there and watch. I cannot remember her name right now. Because that was in Indianapolis, and it wasn't that far from this, and it wasn't that long before this. This just proves police suck in Indianapolis.
Damn.
Yeah.
So the new shift of employees came in, cleaned everything, and just started the day. And you know they all assumed that it was the employees that took the money and nothing else. The next day, November 18th, all 4 employees, Jane, Mark, Ruth, and Daniel, failed to return home or to their next scheduled shift.
I bet you they took
Oh, I
all
don't
that.
think I would cover my shift if I robbed the place.
Yeah, right? They took that large stack of cash and ran off to Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, but then don't worry, they'll be back in the morning for work.
Yeah, right?
That same day, Jane's Chevrolet Vega was found abandoned in the middle of town, which furthered the thought that they had been abducted.
Well, I would hope so.
Yep.
Because if you're gonna steal money, what, you're not just gonna run out of gas somewhere and leave your car there.
I looked up the 1974 Chevy Vega, and it's a sexy car.
Is it really?
In my mind, yeah. I have a lot of love for like the way cars looked in the 70s.
Now I have to do it.
Yeah, look it up. 1974 Chevy Vega.
This is too funny.
It's boxy, but like it's perfectly boxy and round.
Oh,
It's a beautiful
wow.
car.
Yeah. I've seen this in movies.
She had a hot ride.
So at this point, police finally start taking this matter more seriously.
Yeah, okay, finally.
Yeah, it's always after something happens.
Yeah,
it's not
It's a day
never
too late.
preventative. It's always picking up the mess. By November 19th, the families of the 4 employees and the entire community of Speedway were very worried.
I would be too, yes.
Mm-hmm.
20 miles away, deep in the woods of Johnson County, Indiana, a few hikers were out for a hike when they stumbled upon 4 bodies.
Oh no.
And let me guess, they're not these 4.
You're actually wrong.
I know.
These, unfortunately, were the bodies of Jane, Mark, Daniel, and Ruth, and they had been brutally murdered.
Oh,
That sucks.
Now,
just
Speedway,
left out in the open. Oh, that's so fucked.
Right?
very, very brazen. Now, Speedway had between 10 and 12,000 residents, so it was a small little town. So anything like this happening, really shook the community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
In,
that would be hard even in a big city, but yeah.
right. But for like this town, like in its history, it's had less than 5 homicides, and there are 4
Oof.
right there in one swoop.
Right. So they nearly doubled their homicide rate in a single
It's
day.
like, clutch your pearls kind of
Right.
mentality. It is marked as one of the most gruesome crimes in Indiana state history.
Right up there with Sylvia Likens, which is
Yes.
the name of the person I
Oof.
couldn't think of earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
I remember that one. That was an early episode.
Yeah, that was I just looked over at our chart and I'm like, that was episodes 4 and 5.
Oh my God, that
Well,
was
yeah.
Yeah. We're getting old.
Yeah. So Daniel and Ruth were shot execution style several times with a 38 caliber gun.
Oof.
Jane was stabbed in the chest, and it was so ferocious of an attack that the blade snapped off inside of her chest.
Ugh.
Oh,
Yeah, just imagine the
that's
amount of hatred
horrific.
and force and just insanity that
Oh,
takes.
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
I'll take the bullet to the back of the head execution style,
Yeah,
please.
right, exactly. Oh my God. Mark was beaten with a chain-like object, and unfortunately, he died by choking on his own blood.
Oh, so he was
Which
he got the worst of it.
Incredibly gruesome. It's I don't want to say simplistic, but it's not as bad as the other ones, but still like, oh my God.
No, I think that might be worse because you're struggling to breathe and it's your
Like,
own blood you're
the
choking
amount
on.
of horror that had to go through his mind. When they were found, all 4 were wearing their work uniforms and no valuables were missing.
So they robbed the store for $500, but left anything that they had in their wallets or in their possession on their bodies.
Apparently,
Okay.
Ooh.
Wow.
investigators initially believed that this was a robbery gone wrong.
Maybe. At this point, it's so fucked up, it's hard to say.
There's just way too many X factors here. Investigators believe that Mark, who was actually covering for another employee that day, might have recognized whoever came in to rob the store, and the 4 were kidnapped so that there was no evidence left behind.
That's extreme, though.
It certainly is. Yeah. Talk about wrong place, wrong time. Imagine if he never picked up that shift. He'd probably live for a very long time.
Yeah, probably. But like, it just seems excessive to me. Like, I'm gonna go in and rob a a fast food place, and oh, you kind of know me, so now I have to kill 4 people.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which means, whoever did this with this initial theory either panicked or didn't know what they were doing or
Well,
something.
well, they got out of there, so they know enough. And I don't think it was one person because you're controlling 4 people. But I mean, granted, a
True.
gun, but still, I don't know. Continue.
Early in the investigation, 2 16-year-olds came forward giving a description of 2 men they saw outside the restaurant that night before closing. Witnesses described the men as white, average height, fair-colored hair, one of them having a beard, and one of them clean-shaven.
So everybody.
Yeah, right? I know. Doesn't narrow it down much. Police made sketches and models using these descriptions, but no leads came from them, which doesn't surprise me. There's nothing to narrow it down.
Yeah, just no information.
All we know is they're white men who one had and one didn't have facial hair. That's what we know.
And that's unfortunately all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
They either do or do not have facial hair.
Right.
The first major lead in the case came when a man in Greenwood, Indiana, was at a bar one night and began bragging about being one of the killers in the Burger Chef murders.
Idiots.
It-
Idiots.
I love it when they do
just
that.
love to boast about it. It's incredible.
I dare say this feels like a murder fumble. Is it just not technically a murder fumble because he actually did murder them?
Yeah, I would not include an actual murder in a fumbles episode, But then again, I would want to be the one presenting those because listening to you guys laugh at them and react to them is the best.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we should do a different special where we talk about those
Just ones where
because it's
murders.
very satisfying. I think it's cathartic. I think it's healing. I think we haven't done that in a while.
I have one slated coming up within the next month or so.
So, this guy in Greenwood was quickly brought in for questioning, but police couldn't get anything out of him. He even passed a polygraph, so he was released.
I hate that they were reliant on polygraphs back in the day.
I know, isn't it?
We are.
Like,
It's the 70s, isn't it?
yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That's weird. They actually they actually relied on that.
Yeah, they were trusted.
I feel like they like don't even use that anymore, don't they?
They use them to this day to kind of help like put them down a path. So like they might attach you up to the machine just to see how you react, and that'll kind of be like, okay, she reacted this way to this question, and then they'll go down that investigative path. But they're not admissible in court, and people have now, after over all this time, have been known to be able to cheat them. Like they actually were the killer, but yet they came out clean through the polygraph. So
Which is impressive in my mind.
you just got to stay calm.
One positive thing that came from the questioning was that the suspect told police about a gang of fast food chain robbers operating in the area that would have been linked to the murders.
Okay.
There was a specific man named by the Greenwood suspect, and he was found to be matching the fair-haired man from the description said earlier.
Fair. Okay.
This man was already in jail for robbery, and there was no evidence that he was connected to the crime, so he was eliminated as a suspect.
Okay.
So, real quick work of that one. They didn't find much and moved on.
So he was a guy known to rob fast food places, kind of fit the description, and they didn't go too deep.
They couldn't find anything, and they moved on.
All right.
Hmm.
I don't trust this police department to do their jobs well.
No, neither would I. Interestingly, as mentioned by Ken York, an original investigator on the case, the bearded suspect and the Greenwood suspect both ended up dying after the release of the robbery suspect.
Oh.
So all three of those suspects all intermingled together in the fact that two of them died after one of them got out of jail.
Yeah, that's super sus.
That's rare.
Yeah, that's suspicious as fuck.
Mhm.
Another lead surfaced in an Indianapolis news story the spring of that year, which led police saying that they were running an undercover investigation into a drug ring that was thought to be operating out of the Burger Chef.
Wait, what? So they thought someone was selling drugs out of that Burger Chef restaurant?
Yeah, and they were trying to run
Of
an
course they are.
undercover
Every
operation.
single restaurant like that has drugs being dealed out of it.
Sure, like maybe in small doses, like one of the chefs is selling weed to his buddy.
Right.
But like, come on, a full-blown drug thing where someone's gonna kill 4 employees over it? I'm having a hard.
No, you're right.
I'm having a hard time believing that.
It's grasping at straws, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so.
And supposedly the ring shut down a couple months before the murders, so there's no way it could have been related.
Right.
So that theory just went out the window. So the investigation into the Burger Chef murders ended up being opened up to the entire United States. It went from just Indianapolis to areas like Chicago, Milwaukee, Dallas, but nothing ever came of it, and the case ended up starting to go cold.
Damn.
So they were trying to compare them to what other fast food place robberies?
I think they were just trying to find anything they possibly could.
Huh.
They were coming up with zeros on their end, so they were like, all right, let's search into other areas
Which
and see if we can find anything.
I guess is notable for like the 70s/80s because it's not like today where you can upload it into a computer database and just have the information. So they would have to open it up and say, hey, does anyone else in these cities know of anything?
True.
I didn't even think of that.
These pre-internet cases, they're wild.
Yeah. It's why people were able to get away with it for so long.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, we don't have the same level of serial killers today that we did then.
No.
You know, at least one thing is better these days, you guys.
Yeah, I've made this argument before. I think the old school serial killers have really just evolved into modern day mass shooters.
Oh, God.
Honestly,
Yeah,
Wow.
oh,
think about it. We didn't have that many mass shootings in the 70s and 80s the way we do today, but we had
that's
serial
how
killers.
serial killing is done all at once.
Correct. That's what's basically it's turned into. It's and I have
I've
no
never thought about it like that.
I have no scientific data to back that up, but I seriously think that that's the evolution of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because you're not going to get away with serial killing today, but you can get away with your one-time fucking blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fucking crazy. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but at the same time, if I'm right, maybe we can start doing something about it. But
Yeah.
it goes back to your idea, Joyous, that we should have everyone in counseling fucking basically since junior high. You know, that way we can catch
Truly.
as their emotions start to change and their hormones are changing, we can kind of start pinpointing different things. But then that potentially enters into a whole other argument about who's controlling what. I don't know. The whole thing's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, sorry, Jameson, we digress
No,
again.
no, no. I love taking all this in and getting a new perspective because you guys look at things a little bit differently than I do some of the time. So I don't even think about some of that stuff some of the times.
I've been making the argument about mass shooters and serial killers for a while now. So it's just something that occurred to me one day, and I was like, why has no one else been talking about this?
Well, good insights. In March 1981, Jane's brother was arrested by a DEA agent for conspiracy to sell cocaine. Law enforcement and
Not
the
even
press.
successfully selling cocaine. Conspiracy to sell cocaine.
Yeah, just the thought of it.
I had the idea.
Just trying. Mm-hmm.
Wow, so he's not very good.
No, not at all. But law enforcement and the press believe that Jane may have been their target as the murderers were trying to scare her and say, hey, your brother owes us a debt, so we're going to go through you and scare you.
By scaring her, you mean killing her and 3 other people?
Apparently, it went too far, question mark?
See, to me, that sounds like you sent the wrong person. Like you sent a pair of idiots to take care of something. I don't know. Like,
No
it's like a
kidding.
bad movie.
Jane's brother, denied any involvement in his sister's murder, and he was never charged.
Which, again, he would have to deny it, and they can't charge him without any kind of evidence.
Exactly. Later in the spring of 1981, more came from this possible connection as a prison counselor called the only 2 officers that were left working on the Burger Chef case, which were Jim Kramer and Donovan Lindsay, and the prison counselor reached out saying he had a potential lead. Apparently, there had been a fight in the prison between James and another inmate named Alan Pruitt. Pruitt had been taunting James, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry about your sister."
Okay.
You know, just trying to provoke him, get underneath his skin, make him lash
What a
out,
weird guy.
do something stupid.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Kramer and Lindsay brought Pruitt in and talked to him, and Pruitt said he witnessed the abduction. Pruitt said he was at the Dunkin' Donuts next door and saw the whole thing happen. Pruitt claimed that on the night of November 17th, he saw 2 men abduct all 4 victims using an orange van and Jane's Vega. He said the 2 men that took the 4 employees were his friends, Tim Willoughby and Jeff Reed. He said at the time he was so drunk that he thought they were all just piling into a car and they were going off to a party.
Which, just the fact that you're saying I was too drunk to know what the hell was actually happening means I was too drunk for my testimony to mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said he saw them slam Mark's head into the side of the van, but being drunk, he didn't think much of it.
What? Because, you know, we
Oh my
always
God.
do that with our friends. It's a good old fashioned
Like, nah, he's okay. We do this all the time.
whatever.
The next day, Pruitt said he was playing frisbee outside the Dairy Queen, just west of Speedway, when Willoughby and Reed pulled up in the same orange van and offered him a joint and a joyride. Pruitt, not knowing what had happened to the employees, said, "Yeah, sure, I'll go along." In the van, Willoughby's girlfriend, Mary Ann Higginbottom, was in the van seemingly high in the back seat. On November 18th, 1978, the day after the murders, Willoughby and Reed drove around with Pruitt, pressing him on what he had seen the night before at the Burger Chef. Mary Ann, who was high, was rambling about something in the back seat and said that Willoughby and Reed knew who killed the Burger Chef crew.
Okay.
As Pruitt was starting to put things together, the van pulled down a very long road and everyone got out.
Yep.
Mary Ann said to Pruitt, "Run! They're going to kill you." According to Pruitt, he ran and slid down an embankment, and behind him he heard a gunshot. He made it to the road and hitchhiked home from there. When Pruitt told investigators his story, they thought it was credible and possible, but as Pruitt started telling his story, things began to fall apart.
Yeah, I would think so.
As often happens with false confessions, Pruitt's story kept changing, and then investigators learned something that pretty much discredited his whole story. In June 1978, 5 months before the Burger Chef murders, Mary Ann and Tim stopped showing up for work, stopped paying rent, and had emptied their apartment. Some of Mary Ann's personal possessions were found behind where they were living, but none of Tim's. After this, Mary Ann's family tried to report her missing, but were dismissed as Mary and Tim were thought to be
runaways.
There you go. Not long after this, a man identifying himself as Tim said that him and Mary Ann had moved to California. Now just imagine that. Like some random person identifies himself as him and says, "Oh, we're okay. Yep, we're in California. Everything's good."
Yeah, it's a little weird, but if none of his things were found in the back of the house, it's more likely she's dead and he's not. But how that ties in... Yeah, but how that ties into the 4 victims of Burger Chef is weird.
Yeah.
Unless that Tim guy is actually involved. And this Pruitt guy, even though he's full of shit, has some truth to what he's saying. Because we do know that some of these idiots like to brag.
Oh, yes. Yes, they do.
Weird.
So in September 1978, an arrest warrant was issued for Tim as he failed to report for a jail sentence. He was never found.
So like the other guys that got out of prison, he might be dead as well. There's a lot of death around this case. It's a little weird.
Yeah, if like all the killers are dead, then like what do we even keep investigating? Like it's one way to solve a case.
Yeah, right. It's really fucked up. Maybe it's the police.
Oh God, that would be twisted.
Right. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they're not listening.
As you hear somebody kick down your door.
That'd be really weird if it was right now. We haven't even published the episode.
Yeah, they're listening. There's a guy at the FBI who's listening specifically to you all the time.
Right.
So
he's like, he's on the track. He's gonna figure it out.
Yo, he's always watching.
Yeah.
In June 1979, Mary Ann's body was found, stuffed in a barrel, and she had been shot in the head.
Oh.
Wow.
Authorities were convinced that Tim had killed her, but he still couldn't be found.
Yeah, because he's probably in his own barrel somewhere.
Yeah.
4 years later, a confidential informant came forward saying that 2 men were responsible for killing Mary Ann and Tim.
Yeah, the same 2 men, probably with ties to organized crime. At this point, that's all it's pointing to that.
Now, we'll go back to your point from earlier. This is where it all ties in. Because Tim and Mary Ann disappeared 5 months before the Burger Chef murders, Pruitt's story didn't make sense.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Pruitt then says his story of running down the dirt road was fake.
Obviously.
While he did see the van at the Burger Chef that night and was at Dunkin' Donuts next door, he did not in fact see the victims or Tim, and said that he had lied because earlier on in his life a cop had pissed him off.
What?
What a weird vendetta, bro. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, at least
that's a fake excuse.
Right? At least he's just fucking with him versus like that Raoul Moat guy who was like, I'm going to kill you and not do anything.
Yeah.
Yes. After Pruitt's lead went a bust, the case went cold until a break came in 1989.
Wow.
A man locked up in the Pendleton Correction Facility called the police to confess to killing the 4 employees in 1978.
Huh.
Weird.
A little bit.
Very weird.
Detective Mel Wilsley received a call from Donald Forrester, who was in jail for serving a 95-year sentence for
What?
rape. For rape.
Oh.
Wait, 95 years for rape?
95 years for rape.
Not just like lifetime sentence. I guess that's not how sentencing works.
No, but like one rape? Was he a
I
serial?
didn't get
Was he a
all I got
serial
out of that was
rapist?
that it was for rape.
Like,
I doubt it was for one if they actually had that many consequences.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, did he like? And I don't mean to downplay the seriousness of rape. I'm only shocked because we know how this goes for most
Yeah, we know
cases.
that's never prosecuted.
Right. So I'm sitting here shocked. Like, did he rape like the president's daughter? Like, what?
Yeah, it must have been something. He must have done something heinous.
Yeah, it must have been brutal. Like, holy fuck, 95 years.
I couldn't believe that when I read it. I was like, wow, that's one of the most insane sentences I've seen.
Yeah, murderers don't get 95 years that
Right,
often.
exactly.
Exactly.
Wow.
Forrester said he could give them more information if they canceled his transfer to a worse prison that he was supposed to go to.
Okay. Now we have motive for why he's confessing. And yeah.
We love leverage.
So while investigators were skeptical, Forrester was able to tell them where the bodies were and about the knife that had been lodged in Jane's chest.
Okay.
Because of this info, cops took it more seriously as it was not complete public knowledge at that point, and they saw it as him not only wanting to get out of being transferred, but wanting to actually give credible information. He was a career criminal living in Speedway, so they thought that he could be their guy.
I love the term career criminal. Like, you got out of vocational school.
Like, congratulations, you're a career criminal.
I have my certificate in criminality.
Criminal injustice.
Yes, nice.
Oh, that's great. This was also not the first time Forrester had confessed. In 1986, he confessed to Star reporter Dan Lutzer, and Detective Wilsley took that as, hey, maybe there's a little bit more to this than what's being said on the surface.
Okay.
Forrester said he had gone to the restaurant to collect a debt that Jane's brother owed on a drug deal. According to Forrester, him and 3 associates went to the restaurant to threaten Jane, and Forrester said that Mark stepped in to protect her, and a fight ensued. Apparently, Mark fell and hit his head on the bumper of a car, leaving him knocked out. Thinking Mark was dead or close to, Forrester then abducted all 4 so that there'd be no witnesses.
Okay. Still a little weird, but okay.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's not a excuse or anything. I don't even know the right word for it.
Doesn't really add up.
Right.
Yeah. He said while in the woods, he shot Daniel and Ruth while the others took care of Jane and Mark.
Interesting. He's confessing to 2 murders and accomplice to 2 others. It's just weird. I mean, maybe it's true, but I'm so skeptical.
Yeah.
Detective Wilsley also interviewed Forrester's ex-wife, who said that days after the murder, Forrester drove with her to a wooded area where he left her in the car, got out of the car, and went and collected 38 caliber shells, which were the same ones used to kill Daniel and Ruth.
Okay.
Forrester's ex-wife said after collecting the shells, they went to their old house and flushed them.
Huh.
Flushed them. That's where they thought the best place to put them would be?
Well, apparently.
Yeah, that just what an interesting thing for a person to do.
Like, I understand taking them out of the crime scene. You could have driven a half a mile down the road and thrown them back out the window and never seen them again.
Yes, literally.
This is what happens when people think they're smarter than...
I guess so.
So, joke's on them because police were able to get a search warrant for the septic system of that house, and they were able to recover the shells.
Okay.
While the shells were found, it's unknown if they were able to test them, as Forrester was never charged with anything.
Please tell me you have a reason as to why not.
Forrester's confession to Detective Wilsley sounded very promising, and police thought that they had their man, and his accomplices were soon to be found. Soon after the confession, someone in the detective's office leaked information to Forrester's cooperation, and hearing this, Forrester was like, nope, I'm done cooperating, clammed right up, and said that he was forced to confess.
Of course he was.
Damn.
Forrester never spoke of the Burger Chef murders again, and while in custody in 2006, he died from cancer.
All right, so technically this one's probably solved, but it's going to be an open case.
Now, there are several different theories as towards who or whom have done this, and I'm going to cover those right now.
Okay.
So, one theory is that it was connected to the Speedway bombings. The Speedway bombings were a series of 8 random bombings that occurred between September 1st and September 6th in 1978 in Speedway, Indiana. No one was hurt during the bombings, and at the time of the Burger Chef murders, the perp of the bombings was still on the loose, so that's why they thought the two might have been connected.
Or why wouldn't he have just blown up the building with the people in it, then rather than take them hostage and kill them?
Not a clue, but apparently that's what they were grasping at.
Okay.
Well, we know we're not rocking with the best and the brightest.
Very true.
As common sense would dictate, it was later determined after the perp who did the bombings was caught that the two were not, in fact, connected.
Yeah, obviously.
Another theory is that the murders could have been connected to the Sons of Silence, which was a motorcycle group in Indiana, but it was never proven, and many investigators did not believe that it was true to begin with.
Okay. I just want to say that if you're a motorcycle gang called the Sons of Silence, your bikes better be fucking quiet.
For real.
Like, no loud pipes on your gang.
It's probably sarcastic.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably true. They're like louder than everybody else's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's called the Sons
They're
of
doing a
Silence.
bit.
Yeah, it's the Sons of Silence because their pipes are so loud they're all fucking deaf and can't hear it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
I like it.
Another theory was that there was a group of vicious serial killers in the area at the time of the Burger Chef murders, and some believed that they were responsible. The group was called the Stanford Clan, and it consisted of Roger, his brother Harold, his wife Berna, and they all specialized in restaurant murders.
Specialized.
I feel like, you're
Got
going
their
through
certificate and
Yeah,
another
going
one.
through the yellow pages, like, all right, who specializes in murders? Like,
And
oh, these guys do. All right, let's call them.
Yeah, the Mafia Yellow Book.
yes. Awesome.
The Klan had killed at least 9 people in the Midwestern region in the 1970s. On June 22nd, 1978, the Klan gunned down a family of 3 to rob them and steal their car, and 3 weeks later, they hit up a Oklahoma City steak restaurant and ended up killing the 6 employees that were inside.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, like this is just a weird crime.
Yeah, like we're known as this group of people who like to rob and kill people at restaurants. Like,
Yeah, like leave them alone. Of
Like,
all
they take
places.
pride in it. Like, yeah, specialty restaurants, that's our thing.
I don't know. It just makes me think of that scene from Pulp Fiction where they talk about robbing the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yep.
so bizarre.
Yeah.
So Harold died a week after in a motorcycle accident, but Roger and Berna weren't caught until March 1979, so they could have been in Speedway at the time of the Burger Chef murders.
But were they known to take people out of the restaurant? Because it doesn't sound like it.
No.
That would be a good question.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I think it's the guy where they found the shells in his friggin' septic system. Who else would do that?
For real.
So after being caught, Berna confessed that the Klan had committed several different crimes that they had never been convicted of. Kind of throwing it out there and bragging and being like, hey, guess what? We could have done this, this, and this, and you'll never know. So the Klan had never been formally charged. So that kind of died right there. Next theory is the robbery gang theory. This involved Timothy Pickney, Greg Steinke, John Deffenbaugh, and David Cathcart, and S.W. Wilkins. And they robbed Burger Chef restaurants, and Pickney's wife had worked at one and had given them inside information and procedures on how they did closing and, what to expect so they could rob them easier.
Okay, weird.
So this group would pull a gun on an employee who was taking out the trash at the end of the night, force them back inside to empty the cash register, and then they'd run.
But still, they're not killing people. That's what I'm saying. Like, this seems like frivolous. Like, this seems like a waste of
Yeah.
police time. Yeah.
So it was revealed that they were likely involved in other robberies of other chain restaurants as well in Indiana.
Right.
A day before the Burger Chef murders, before anyone knew that the employees had been killed, David Cathcart entered a bar in Greenwood, Indiana, telling everyone that he had been involved in a robbery at a Burger Chef.
Yeah, but if he was known to rob other burger chefs, he could have been talking about anything.
Yeah, yep. He told everyone in the bar that the employees would soon be found alive.
What?
When the employees' bodies were found, patrons alerted police about Cathcart's confession.
As they should.
So Kim York and Richard Bumps, two investigators, were able to track him down and interview
Wait,
him.
sorry, Richard Butts?
Bumps, Bumps.
So Dick Bumps is quite a name.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome. Dick Bumps.
Nothing but respect.
I hope you're a good cop, guy.
When they interviewed him, he admitted that he was part of a group that robbed Burger Chef restaurants, but said that he wasn't involved in the Speedway murders. Cathcart revealed that he met up with Steinke on the night of November 17th, 1978, and decided to rob a Burger Chef on the east side of Indianapolis. When they arrived at the location, there was a police car sitting outside, so they abandoned their plan. Cathcart was so nervous that he began drinking to the point where he got drunk, and Steinke had to drop him off at home, to which point Steinke ended up picking up two others and heading to the Speedway Burger Chef to rob it.
So they're in a hurry and they're going to take captives and kill them? Still having trouble with that.
None of this really adds up to anything in my head, but this is what they're thinking here. Kim York then went to speak with Steinke, and when he got to his house, he found his neighbor, S.W. Wilkins, mowing the lawn. Wilkins had a beard that resembled that of the witness statement of the two men, which, once again, could be any
Right.
male with a beard.
Right.
York asked Wilson to come down to the station for a lineup, and Wilkins agreed. However, when he showed up to the station, he'd shaved off his beard, and that had been the first time in a very long time that he had done so.
Right, which obviously that's what I would do if I were him.
Wilkins, however, was identified as being one of the men at the Burger Chef that night. Steinke's attorney, on a separate weapons charge, had come forward to police with incriminating evidence against Wilkins. The attorney learned that there were 7 people in that Burger Chef at the time of the murders, and he said that Wilkins was involved with the murders and that Steinke had cased the restaurant 3 nights before the murders had happened. And while this did seem promising, there was no physical evidence linking any of them to the murders.
Ugh, that sucks.
I still think it was the other guy. That's my take.
And I agree
Yeah.
with you. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Out of all of these theories, out of everything that they had as far as suspects, whether they're strong or weak, that definitely seemed like the one.
Yeah, I mean, how else do you have the bullet casings like that? Like, there's, you know what I mean? Unless you stumbled upon the bodies, freaked out, grabbed them, brought them home, and then was like, oh, we should get rid of these, which is obviously just as stupid as the rest of this. Like, there's no other reason for you to have those bullet casings.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So there were definitely a lot of things wrong with this case from the start. The biggest being the crime scene not being preserved, and pictures and evidence and nothing being taken seriously. It was all just wiped away.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this case, and that was one of the things we talked about was how the police let them clean everything, and then after, when they found out they were murdered, they tried to go back and, from memory, lay things out the way they had been before. Like that was,
Crazy.
yeah, that's the thing we had talked about before, and that's what started this whole process of us covering this case. Can you imagine?
Now, here's something really interesting, and I was slightly impressed that he did this. Buddy Elwinger, a police officer in Speedway who initially worked on the case, said, quote, "We screwed it up from the beginning."
So he's stating the obvious and taking responsibility.
But they're taking responsibility. That never happened.
No, I agree. It's funny.
For real.
Another issue is definitely the handling of evidence, including the employees' uniforms and what was left behind at the restaurant.
Yep.
After the murders, the burger chef offered $25,000 to anyone with any information to the capture of whoever committed this heinous crime. The case remains open, and they have started using DNA tracing that was unavailable at that time, but unfortunately nothing at this moment has come of it.
Genetic genealogy would be a great way to solve this case after all this time.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would. And unfortunately, the case does remain unsolved.
Officially, but I think we know.
Officially. And
Yeah.
that, ladies and gentlemen, is the case of the Burger Chef murders.
Yeah, that's a frustrating case. I'm not gonna lie.
Very.
Yeah, this is why I don't like unsolved cases. Because
it's just like, man, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it pisses you off. So on that note, since we're wrapping it up, and since we brought this up earlier, I think next week we'll do our Murder Ballads Fumble number 3.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's time. You're right. It's been a long time since we've been able to kind of let loose and have some fun at these idiots'
We
expenses.
need some levity.
Yeah, so next week, join us again. We're going to do Murder Ballad Fumbles. So, hell yeah.
Woohoo.
Sounds good.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. Once again, I am Janus Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.